Welcome to The Bank is Open, presented by Pickett Sports, Boom Fantasy, breaking down. Well, we don't have any NBA games tonight. They're off until Thursday, man. They give these guys all the time in the world off, but we'll talk some futures, some awards. Maybe we'll get into some NFL draft. It is always NFL season. I don't know if you guys have any XFL takes from the first week. I don't know that I do, but Brad, Matt, Nick, what's going on, guys?
Yo, it's funny that you say they give these guys a long time for the All-Star break. I'm like seeing dudes like on beaches with like alcoholic beverages on their in their hands over the weekend. I was like, they went straight from Salt Lake City to like a beach to just chill for the next couple days. Like that's such a vibe. Like that doesn't happen in like hockey. Hockey, the All-Star break happens and they're like, right back hitting each other like the very next like 2 days later.
Yeah, man. Stern didn't pull this. Stern ran a tight ship. David Stern, when he was the commissioner, Silver is much more of a millennial sort of sort of commissioner. Where man, these guys just get whatever they want, week off, play when you want to play, sort of thing. Not that we delve into that, but I don't know. It's just crazy. Um, I don't know what if you guys want to start. I think what we're gonna do, we'll spend a little time NBA. We're gonna pick one future we like in terms of like the title, one award we'd all bet that we'd recommend. Then we'll maybe do some NFL draft stuff, and we'll just see where the conversation goes. So I guess we'll start there. And Nick, if you want to start NBA title or any sort of NBA future, if you had $100 to bet, let's play this game. Best bet on the board right now, bet that you'd actually make or bet that you actually recommend. Where would you go?
I'm gonna kind of cheat on this one and take two kind of future type things and not take an award because there's nothing award that I super am into right now on odds. I have one long shot and then one play that I really like. We kind of touched on this. I know Matt hates this play, but I still like it. OKC to make the play in plus 240 on DraftKings. I don't know, man. I like that team. They're young enough, dumb enough to get in. They might not get out of it, but I think they can get into it. So plus 240, I like their shot there. And then for a long shot, you guys will probably like this, but it is a long shot. Orlando to make the play in plus 1,300.
Oh, I love it. You're speaking my language. The Thunder,
I mean,
the Magic,
I think
man,
they're
this is
like
great.
3 or 4 games out.
Yeah.
They start with Detroit on Thursday. If they can win that game, some of those teams that are in there right now aren't that good. I don't think Chicago's that good.
I've got that ticket on Orlando. They just can't seem. It doesn't mean they won't win, but they just can't seem to break through. Every time they like need to win a game, like they blow a game against Miami, they just can't crack through. If they can get to 1 or 2 games within, they've been playing well. I think they started 5-20, so if they can ever just get within a game or so, they might be able to crack in. And man, they'd make it a lot more fun than some of these other teams like the Wizards or whatever. So that's a fun one.
And I heard something the other day that I think it was since, don't quote me, but sometime in early mid-December. I think OKC is like the 5th or 6th best record in the NBA.
They've been good,
and it's over like a 36 or 40 game, almost 40 game sample size. So, it's almost a half season. So it's not like they've just been kind of fluky. They've been good for the last couple months.
And I don't know that they're going to shut it down. It would make sense to shut it down and get even more like ping pong balls, draft equity. It's just you're running out of time to shut it down. Even if you like lose every game the rest of the way, you'll move down a little bit, but it's not like you can get to all the way at the bottom. Before we move on, anyone you'd pick? You got to pick somebody for the title. Who would you pick, Nick?
I mean, I got to ride my Bucks still.
Okay.
Still taking the Bucks.
We got plus 550 now. You follow this team. How long do you think Giannis will miss if you had to put like an over under on it?
I mean, I don't think he'll miss too long unless there's something crazy.
2 games, 2 weeks, a month?
A few games, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, they might also just try to rest him a little bit more, like based on matchups.
Yeah.
Man, it depends too on Middleton. If they can get Middleton back a little bit more minutes, that might aid in their decision of sitting him a little bit longer because Holiday's been playing well. If they can get, I don't know what Portis's timetable is either, but if they can get some of those guys back and healthy, I think that will help the decision as well.
Yeah, they can take their time. The only bet I see out of it is, DraftKings still has these season win totals up. Maybe we can get into some of these. Bucks under 56.5 wins. If he's going to miss 2 or 3 weeks, that's enough. Where maybe that was the stale line. But if he only misses 2 games, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's an extra loss, and that helps. But Matt, jump in here. Futures, awards, find one of each. Anything you'd recommend at current prices?
Well, so you gave me $100, right? I can bet whatever I want on a futures market. I'm going to parlay the Lakers to make the Western Conference playoffs. That means they have to get into the 8 after they have to play through the play-in if they can make it. And I'm also going to parlay that with the Raptors to make the playoffs. together. That's 686 on FanDuel. I like both of these teams. I like that Toronto's roster is good enough. They didn't make any subtractions. They're going to make it. You can kind of see the writing on the wall. They're rising. They're a team right now that I'm happy to get behind. Lakers love their moves. We talked about it last week. Love their moves. And I think in a play-in situation against the quality competition in the East, I would think the Raptors would be favored against any of those play-in teams. And then also Lakers, same kind of thing. It's to me, I get almost 7-1 on this. I think it's really nice value. So
can you parlay all these playoff things? Like you could do that in the West, like two parlay.
You could parlay, yeah,
up to 4.
So,
wow,
yeah,
that would. I mean, do they rip you off on the juice? Because hey, if I like OKC to make it, I like the Lakers to miss it. Just as an example, like they're heavily correlated. Do they rip you off on the Vega or not?
All right,
really?
so let's see. You want to say they don't offer you a no though.
Yeah, just one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's,
Right.
oh wait, no, they do have a Lakers no on playoffs. So I'll do that here for you. So you want to try no, it's minus 250 on a no, and then you want to do OKC yes, and that is correlated.
Let me parlay.
It will not let you parlay that. I think you have to go conference to conference. I don't think you can parlay stuff within
which makes sense. I mean,
Yep. That's
not,
obviously correlated, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think that's a great look because none of the other teams really scare me in the East. I think Toronto can get in, and like I've made my point before, I think the Lakers' moves were fantastic. It's just a matter of staying healthy and playing enough games. But I like them in a one-game playoff against anybody too. So give me both of those teams in.
How about championship? $100. What's the best bet on the board right now? I know what
Best bet on the board. All right, let me pull up the
I can
finals
answer
odds
it for you because I've been with you long enough where I can answer it for you. But you can. say the
So
word.
yeah, Clippers 11-1.
I'm seeing
I mean,
9-1. I'm seeing 9-1 on DraftKings. Where's 11-1?
yeah, 11-1 over on FanDuel.
Not
I
bad.
mean,
Because their odds got worse when they got Westbrook.
Yeah,
they did.
the
That was
Westbrook move,
hilarious.
it's weird how John Wall didn't really work out there. I thought that was going to be a nice move, but Westbrook is Westbrook. He's played with with Paul George successfully before. I think if he can play some minutes and while Kawhi's off the floor, it may work. He's a bad fit with LeBron, who wanted to be such a ball dominant player. Obviously, you couldn't play those guys on the floor at the same time very effectively, and definitely not with Davis, who you want him in the paint. So you kind of have to clear guys out. So if say Zubac's off the floor, you let Westbrook kind of run and gun, put some shooters around him, put PG on there. I think they can do something. But I just love their depth. I love their wings. And in the playoff basketball, it's so much different than regular season basketball. It's just the intensity ratchets up, and I think people just forget that. They really do. Like you get after 82 games of watching little to medium level defense, all of a sudden it's shocking to see it go to like not 8 and 9 out of 10 from like the 4 that it is in the regular season. And if you watch the All-Star game,
I was going to say, what was the All-Star game?
-10, unless you're SGA, who gets chased down blocked.
Yeah.
Which was pretty funny. But yeah, I think that's a good bet. And I think the Warriors at 19-1 would be my other bet. So, like we've talked about the Warriors, it's health dependent. But almost 20-1 on the Warriors. The books are telling you, man, they might know something. Like somebody's more hurt than they're letting on or something, because it's crazy to me that you can get that kind of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably just going in a situation where, hey, even best case scenario, you're going to have to be on the road, and you just think if you're even not even an underdog, but even money for all these series, parlay that 4 times over. Those add up quickly, and you start to be the underdog in some of them. And Look, I've heard smart basketball people say, hey, I would pick them healthy against anyone in the West. And I'm like, you know what? That's not crazy. I don't necessarily agree, but that's not crazy. Then I've heard smart basketball people, you know what? They say this isn't the same team as last year. They kind of caught lightning in a bottle last year. We're 60 games in pretty much. They're 500. They haven't played defense. They haven't played well on the road. I don't take them that serious. Not that I don't take them that seriously, but I just don't think it's their year, which I kind of buy too. So it's a puzzling team. It's really strange. It's strange that they're 500. So look, I wouldn't be shocked if they went on a run. I wouldn't be shocked if they just don't make it out of the play in like a
I
couple years
think
ago.
I think Kerr will tighten the rotations as it gets in, and Draymond will eventually be able to assert himself. And getting Gary Payton in there to help with the perimeter defense helps. I think Wiggins hasn't been healthy, but I think they have the ability to flip the switch. And like the same thing that their defense has always been the most underrated aspect of their championship teams. And
Yeah.
if they could ever flip the switch, you just can't beat that team with their shooting and their commitment to defense. But I'll let Brad go now.
I'm the one that I'm going to take is the odds make sense of why it's this price, but I'm taking Clippers to win the Pacific at plus 290. They by far have the more difficult pathway between the Kings and the Suns there, but if we've seen how great Paul George and Kawhi Leonard when they play together, they have like kind of like that big three in Milwaukee feel where they're 13-3 for Milwaukee. Kawhi Leonard over the last month is averaging 28.5 points per game. Defensively, they're going to get better. Even we talked about this, Will. I'm not talking about with Westbrook on the court, but I'm talking about with the ability to rotate. And now both two big men, two really big presences. They have really good on the ball defenders. And I think that getting Reggie Jackson out of there was good because there's nothing wrong with Reggie Jackson's game. It's just I don't know how to describe it. He doesn't bring pressure every single play. He doesn't give 100% every single play. If you replace that energy with energy of a Russell Westbrook, even though I said it's going to be negatively impact him in the defensive rating, effort can almost make up for what you lack in skill on the defensive end. So I like that price at plus 290. And like I said, this is probably one of those things too where if you want to get it like to plus 320, you can wait because I think they have like two really tough games, and then the games for the Kings are really easy, and the game for this next week coming up, and the games for the Suns are pretty. Nothing's easy in the NBA because they have to play the Thunder, but are pretty easy. So I like that price a lot. I did take. I think the price changed though. I took the Lakers on Wednesday, but to make the playoffs. But when I checked back here, it was a different price. And then for my team to win it all, the price changed from plus 600 to plus 550 was the Bucks to win it all. I took that on Wednesday on the Vision show. I talked about it just a second ago. Like the Bucks when Middleton, Holiday, and Giannis play together, 13-3. Like I'm not too worried about how long Giannis stays out because I think this is a team that, as long as they're in that 1 to 3 range, they're going to be totally fine and they can stack up well against anyone. Like I know that the Celtics they're so talented. Tatum's so talented. They do very well at stopping Giannis, but like I think Giannis is gonna be some good minutes away from the court to kind of refresh his legs, refresh his energy. It's gonna make him, not that he was ever not thirsty for the game, but it's gonna make him want to dominate because guys like Giannis are guys who their life is basketball. Like that's all they want to do is play and dominate. And him not being able to do that, I think they're in for another big run.
There's a question on the chat. I'll just answer it quickly. There's a FanDuel boost. Xavier Creighton, Texas, all the win. Boosted from 175 to plus 250. I do think it's a pretty good bet. I like Nova with the points. I'd be a little worried about Xavier, but hey, throw $50 on it. I think that's not a bad bet there. So I think that's one that's worth doing. How about an award, Brad? Anything for an award before I give mine?
Oh, I looked at this market of the six man. I keep looking at it, right?
Yes,
Like,
that's where I was going.
It's so confusing to me now though because like, does Norman Powell's role change?
Yes.
Like I was thinking about it. I was like, how much does his role change? Because if Russell Westbrook came there and they were like, listen, Norm, you're gonna get your minutes. I still think it's still a good bet at plus 410. Now if he goes in there and he's playing a third less of the minutes, then I don't like it as much.
I thought Powell was a good bet too. I really do.
Yeah.
I thought that was a weird market. Like Westbrook being the favorite all year really made
was
no
really
sense.
weird.
Really strange. It was just an off market. I still think Powell's the best bet. That would have been my award. As far as the title, it's not sexy, but the Suns, I think there's a plus 480 out there. I'm seeing plus 450 on FanDuel. I just think once they get Durant back, look, if you tell me they're going to be hurt, maybe they'll be hurt. But if you get me Durant, Chris Paul, Booker, and Ayton, the three best teams I think are them, the Bucks, and the Celtics, and they don't have to go through the other two. They only have to go through one of them. Bucks and Celtics, one of them knock each other off. If you told me right now the Suns are healthy, not only would I pick them to go to the finals, I'd be a little surprised if they didn't make it. I think it's going to be work. I think people, with Durant missing so many games, I think people forget just how great he is. I kind of like the Suns here. Again, it's not flashy, it's not sexy, but I'm kind of high on the Suns. I'm curious when he's going to be back. It'll be fun to watch when he gets back.
Yeah, there's still a plus 450 out for the Suns on FanDuel. So
with the Suns, Monty's got his hands full. I mean, obviously these guys are smart. They're great basketball players, but how do you figure out that floor spacing? What does it do for Ayton's motivation and his morale now that KD's coming into the team and he's going to take 20 shots out of that team? Chris Paul's job got easier, that's for sure. But I think, D-Book and Ayton are going to have to sacrifice, and how they, function with that. It's going to be weird, and how they stagger the minutes and stuff. I would say it's thrown in so late in the game and you're buying at such a low price. If you snagged it early, like before the KD trade went through, or you kind of a rogue number where it was like 12 or 13 or 14 to 1, tip your cap. But now you're buying at the absolute peak of the market, and we haven't even seen this team play together.
Yep.
A lot of unknowns, and to me right now, I maybe they do it, maybe they don't, but I have a trouble getting there just because the West is going to be crazy, and they're going to have the least amount of chemistry of any team moving forward. And they lost their best perimeter defender in Mikal Bridges, who was their stopper in these series. So I don't know. Durant, say they run into the Mavs,
they'll kill the Mavs. Won't be able to stop them though.
Kyrie. Who's guarding Kyrie? Not Chris Paul. And if Durant is going to guard Luka or what? How's that going to work out? I think it matches up. They would be a bad matchup. And we saw Luka just destroy them by himself last year. I think you throw Kyrie, I think it's trouble. And I know Ayton is one of the few bigs that can give Jokic some trouble. But I don't know. I don't see them necessarily as smooth of a favorite as everybody else does, just because of the lack of chemistry. And I still don't. I think you can attack Chris Paul. The elite guards in the West will continue to attack him, and KD is going to have to play Mikal Bridges defense. Unless they can bring in another piece somehow, some way, on this buyout market, I don't see an elite. Torrey Craig might be their best perimeter defender at this point. That's kind of barbecue chicken against the elite wings. So you're asking KD to come back off an injury to play probably 40 minutes a game and play good defense both ways. It's I don't know. I want to see it first, but I loved it when it was 14. I think you grabbed it, Will, and you texted us hey, this is still out there. Loved it there, but not at its current price.
Right. Yeah. I just, I'm just not a believer in any of these sleepers, and it's so open that maybe you can get a Lakers or a Warriors to make a run. But I do think, as wide open it is, and it's usually not this wide open, which makes it fun. I do think the cream will sort of rise to the top here, and it'll be Bucks. I'd be surprised if it's not Bucks Celtics in the conference finals in the East. And barring health, I think, I don't know, Suns Nuggets. Obviously, somebody can upset that, but boy, that'd be a hell of a conference finals if we get Suns Nuggets. The Lakers are not.
The Lakers need to win 75% of their games, 80% of their games. That's tough.
How about just winning 2 out of 3 for the Lakers? I'm a Lakers fan. The Lakers.
I just took the Lakers. I took the Lakers for the price.
Stink. Oh,
it was such a nice price.
Is it though?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not now.
If they get it going,
I've heard this for 3 years with if they get LeBron and David,
man, everything went their way in the bubble. They got it going and they won. And everybody else,
that team was much better defensively though. They had 3-and-D guys. They had Pope. They had Green.
They got him now. The trade, Oh,
I
Jared
like that pick a lot.
Vanderbilt,
Yeah.
Malik Beasley's in
Rudy
there.
Hachimura, like they got their
Hachimura.
3-and-D guys. Like,
Yeah.
it's. Go ahead, Brad.
I actually think like the Lakers' biggest like issue is going to be Ham. Like sometimes he puts out lineups like on the court, like these rotations. I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's
like,
always played the small guards together. Like,
yeah, like it just doesn't.
that's the other thing. You're putting Schrader and D'Angelo Russell at the same.
That
time.
was
Like,
so bad.
Yeah.
But when they played the team, so the line was 5.5. The second game that they played together, the line was 5.5. The Lakers take like a 6-point lead, so I took -1.5, right? And then they end up going down by like 7. So then I took -10.5. Then they went down by 15, so I took 14.5. And they got down as much as 19, and they hit a 3-pointer for the game to land on 15. I was like, holy smokes, or 15 or 14. I was like putting it on Twitter. I was like, this is pretty amazing that you can still fade the Lakers while Darvin Ham is putting out these lineups that make no sense, because they post out these lineups that you either exploit how weak they're going to be defensively, or it's a lineup where they can't score. It's like one of the two things.
You probably find out with the Lakers pretty quick too. Just looking at their schedule, they have the Warriors at home, at Dallas, at Memphis. You can't, if you go 0-3 there, they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Probably.
And I think they're 39.5, 40.5 for season win totals, which would make them have to go like 14-9. It's just, can I see? Yeah. And that's the other thing. Davis has not looked as good since the injury. He looked unbelievable before the injury. He's just not looked as fluid, like his just going side to side. He hasn't.
He doesn't open up and run well up the court, up and down the court.
He's not moving well.
It looks like right.
Yeah, he runs like Sabonis used to run. I'm not talking about Domas. I'm talking about his dad. Like, yeah, I mean, where it's just kind of like the hips just don't quite loosen up anymore, and
he got too big. I think he got too big.
Yeah,
they do have a good close to the season, though. They have Thunder, Bulls, Timberwolves. So if they can get to the final 4 games.
It's still the Thunder. That's the team that LeBron broke
they might
the
be
record.
Playing too.
Who knows? Ran him off the court. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. That's the other thing too. LeBron, it's always a foot injury. You know, he'll break the record, then he'll miss 3 games. Davis, you never know. I just look. This is me as a Laker fan. I've heard this for 2 or 3 years, and I actually had them the year they won it. I've had a pretty good feel for them. I'd be surprised if they made a run. I'd be pleasantly surprised, but I just don't trust them. I don't trust that organization. I don't trust LeBron and Davis just to play enough games.
I think it's going to be one of those situations where like, oh, we barely missed the playoffs, and then they get Kyrie, and then everyone just bets on the Lakers next year.
Yeah, and the thing is, I forget what podcast. I might have been Ryan Russillo was making the point, and I hadn't thought of that. I think there's some truth to that they improved this team marginally just to increase the odds that pick does not turn into Wembanyama and they miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I heard that same thing.
Which is kind of a weird thing. I understand it. It's human nature, but like the Nets went through this when they traded their big 3. They said, you know what? We're not going to just throw bad picks after, throw good money after bad. Those picks are out the window. It's a sunk cost. We're going to do what's best for us. There is a little bit of an optics thing where it's like, all right, I don't want this to look bad. I don't want that. Like the pick's gone no matter what, whether it's 1st, 15th, 20th. But I get you don't want that tied to you. Hey, if we miss the playoffs and the Pelicans get Wembanyama on your dime, that's gonna be a tough one.
And talking about Wembanyama, and we got time for it. So the Sixers have the Nets pick, right, this year?
Sixers have the Nets pick. I think so. I don't know if there's any provisions on it.
And so the Nets are going to miss the playoffs here, we can think, right? Like,
I don't think so.
They have a nice lead, but they're going to drop out, right?
I don't think so.
If you think they're going to miss, I had it literally in my bet slip right now.
Yeah, I was
the bet to not make the playoffs is plus 680 for the Nets.
Oof.
I thought about it too.
I think that's a really nice bet.
The problem with the Nets missing the playoffs is not the Nets. It's all of the other teams that are really struggling.
Right.
Like I think Atlanta has a good chance of missing the playoffs. They're 4-6 in their last 10, and they have looked awful. And they have a really, really tough schedule coming out. Like, and then you have to think about the other teams that are going to play better. So, I was trying to say like what I was going to do with the Nets, but I think
the bottom of the East is just so bad. It's hard for them.
Let's look at it this way: 3-game lead on the play-in, 6-game lead on the 8 seed. So it works. They're not going to fall all the way to the 8 seed at Atlanta. 6 games is too much to make up, and Atlanta's not that good. They'll win enough games. So,
I think they do. I think they drop to 9th, and they're not going to win a play-in game because I've got the Raptors Raptors are going to ascend, and I think the Hawks will sort of get right. I think the Heat.
So you think they're going to make
well.
up 7 games in 24? I mean, that math does not. That math is very hard.
I mean, the Nets just they don't have a necessarily a winning formula right here. I mean,
but they could play okay. I mean, they could.
Yeah,
play...
I think they can play like. There's only that's the problem with our what you call it being so late this year with the All-Star game.
Right.
It feels like it was later, right? So like they have less games. How many games do they have left? Can't be many.
20. They got 24
something?
left. So let's give
Yeah,
them 10
so they have
wins.
like
Let's say they go
24.
Let's say they go 10 and 14.
okay.
Okay, that puts them at 44. That means the Raptors to get to 44 have to. Let's see.
They still get 3 games against the Rockets.
Yeah. What's Toronto here? 28 and 31. So Toronto needs to go 16 and.
Well, I mean, the play-in
16
type
and
of thing
7.
is what we're talking about, right? Like they got to win the play-ins.
But
Like
if you go to, I'm saying
they'll drop into the play-in, right?
The worst case scenario is they fall, but they fall into the 7. I'm saying they got a 6-game lead on the 8 seed. So if you're the 7, you got 2 cracks to win 1, and that's probably worst case scenario. You're probably not falling to the 8. So that's a lot of dominoes to fall. All right, we got to fall all the way to the 7 and then get swept in 2 home games. Not impossible, but I think that, I don't know, that 680, I thought about betting it too. I think it's properly priced. I don't know if it's off either way.
Right.
Who do you think's catch? You think Atlanta's catching them?
I think the Heat, the Hawks, and the Raptors all catch them, and the Knicks. Like, so I think by the end of the season they all pass them.
I know.
And so the Wizards, no, because the Wizards are at best a 500 team. But I do think the Raptors can play better and ascend here. They've been playing pretty good ball here. I think they can climb, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I at plus 680 or whatever.
It's okay to be wrong.
Yeah,
it's okay,
it's okay, I guess. Like, and I mean, you could, if they lose the first game, and then you can just take the money line and hedge. So that's a nice bet to make there.
Nick, was that odds to miss the playoffs, or is that odds to make the play in?
I think it was to miss playoffs.
Okay. So if you really wanted to be a little safer, you could just take them to make the play in. What are those odds? Do we have those?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, plus 680 to
plus
make
250.
The playoffs, no.
Because asking a team like Toronto to go like 17-7 the rest of the way is to me asking a lot. I mean, it's still getting 10.
Yeah, so the Nets to make the play-in tournament plus 250. That's probably the better bet. Like if you want to cash the one bet and don't set yourself up for a hedge, but like, yeah, I mean, I think they'll get caught. Like they only need to be. So the Heat and the Knicks just need to catch them and pass them, and they're only 3 games behind in the loss column.
Right. Which 3 still? I mean, it doesn't. It sounds like it's only 3 games. When you only have 20 left, like it's not nothing. It's not nothing. I don't know. I think.
Who are the Nets beaten though? Like, are they? How many times are going to be a favorite the rest of the way?
I'll have to look. All right, let's get the Nets schedule here because it's not a terrible team. It's not a good team, but it's not a terrible team.
I think they're gonna be, and when they're gonna be dogs, like to most of these teams, they're gonna be dogs too, except for like the Celtics and the Bucks. They're gonna be like a 3-point dog. Like they can win those.
At the Bulls, at the Hawks, home for the Bucks, at the Knicks, at the Celtics, home for the Hornets, at the Rockets, at the Bucks, at the T-Wolves, at the Nuggets, at the Thunder, home for the Kings, home for the Nuggets. This isn't really easy. Home for the Cavs, home for the Cavs again. At the Heat, this is not easy. At the Magic, home for the Rockets. You got a couple in there. Home for the Hawks, home for the Jazz, home for the T-Wolves. At the Pistons. It's not easy. I think
it's like a 500 schedule.
Yeah, it is. It is probably.
I don't know. I see they'll lose to it's 50-50 with the Bulls, but they'll lose to the Hawks. They'll lose to the Bucks, lose to the Knicks, lose to the Celtics.
I mean, you're just giving them losses in every. If you're going to give them losses in every game, yeah, they're going to get caught. But I don't. I mean,
well, I mean, realistically, they look at give them wins. Go find the wins. So
I'll give them Pistons, and then I'll just start backwards. I'll give them the Pistons. I'll give them one. I'll give them a split between the Jazz and the T-Wolves. Both games are in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Home versus the Hawks. What do they play? The Hawks twice. I'll give them a split with those two. I'll say they win one of them. Beat the Rockets. I'll be fair. I'll have them lose at the Magic. I'll have them lose at the Heat. 2 games home versus
If
the
they lose at the
Cavs.
Magic, you got to give them Magic at home then, which adds
Yeah.
another win. I don't think the
Yeah.
Magic sweep them.
I'll
or
give
sweep those 2
I'll give
games.
the Cavs a sweep. I'll have them beat the Kings. I'll have them lose at the Thunder. Yeah, I mean it's gonna be they're gonna win 9
Hey,
or 10
I see.
games. I
I
would
see
think.
at most 7 wins.
Actually, I
Like,
think the
Can
Magic.
we bet that right now? Can we bet over under 7 wins?
What's the what's their
It's
win
gonna
total?
be more than whatever +7 is. I mean, I think you're
Regular
big over.
season wins. 58 and oh no, that's Celtics. I'm like, how's it 58? Okay, 45.5, and they're at
10 wins. So then you win 11 wins.
oh yes,
Exactly
under.
where I put 'em at.
That's a great bet. Under 45.5 plus 102.
And that
I'm
gives
gonna-
them 10 wins, and you still cash your under. So I think we were about fair, giving them 10 wins.
I'm gonna bet that.
What'd you bet? Under 45.5 wins?
I'm betting under 45.5 wins on the Nets right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's not crazy.
They got to find 11. Go find me 11 wins, and
I just think it's hard. There's so many that are toss ups. It's hard. Like we can sit here and say, oh, they're going to sweep the Hawks. They'll get swept by Hawks. I don't know. There's a lot of 50.
I think the Hawks are like really on a downward trajectory.
Me
Like,
too.
they don't play defense, and the Murray and Trey thing doesn't work. Like one person just stands there. Like it's not
Right.
fluid.
Plus, you could run into a game. It looks like a loss on paper, but the other team's sitting all their guys, and then all right,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's a nice win, and who knows? It's
They
tough-
do that
it's
in the
really hard
NBA?
with the NBA. What's that?
They do that in the NBA?
Sometimes.
No.
Sometimes. All right, the bank is open. Pickett Sports, Boom Fantasy. Check them out.
Nuggets game. The Nuggets game is going to be a back-to-back on the road
Yeah.
because the Nuggets play in Madison Square Garden and then they go to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nuggets could definitely sit a bunch of guys.
But even 10 and 14, like teams like the Raptors, all right, you're going to give me 16 out of 23 from the Raptors, a team that's been under 500 so
Yeah,
far.
it's
That's
tough.
asking a lot. All right, we covered a lot. You guys want to wrap up NFL,
Talking
Super Bowl?
baseball at all?
Okay, I just want to ask you guys one question. Just tell me if I'm crazy, right? So I'm trying to think of some exactas that I'm going to put together for the NFL. All right. So I'll just, for anybody who's watching, I'll just say the draft order. No trades right now, 1 through 5. Chicago Bears, Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals, Indianapolis Colts, Seattle Seahawks. So let's say the Colts jump up to 1. I honestly think that the Bears realistically drop down outside of 4, but let's say they keep it, right? Like I think the Bears, because what the Bears need, the Bears don't want Carter, right? But let's say the Bears do
Why
just go
not?
D-line.
How come? I'm not saying you're wrong, but what's your thought process there?
Because I think the Bears want an edge rusher. Jalen Carter is a great plug filler. Jalen Carter had 6 sacks in his 33 games at Georgia. The Chicago Bears were last in the NFL at sacks, last at quarterback pressure. If they do it at best available, sure. But I think for them, they get a killer's bounty for the Colts, and then they trade back down for a team who might want to kind of get a little bit higher. A team who could use that number 4 pick in like the Carolina Panthers. So then they go down to 9. I think we could see like some exactas if we find quarterbacks, but do you guys think that makes sense or no?
Too early for me. I try to bet just based on information and try to, just get good numbers and get ahead of them here. I haven't done a lot of the research yet. And I think so much depends on what Chicago does. And I do think they'll trade the pick. I just don't know to who and where do they go from there. So it's not as straightforward. Last year I think you could find some value because
Last year was super straightforward.
Yeah. Well, last year, and it was a little different because there wasn't a clear-cut number 1 pick. There was 3 different favorites over the course of the draft cycle.
The exacta was nice last year.
The Jags didn't need a quarterback, so Walker came out of nowhere. This year, there's a lot more moving parts, I feel like.
Yeah, the problem with the NFL draft, like the mocks are fun, but you really make money when you get that inside information. And without that, but I'm gonna put something fun together. I'm probably gonna go like, I just imagine if the Colts trade up, I don't really think they're getting Levis. Like I don't believe it. I think the Colts would go with C.J. Stroud. So we see C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Anderson. It was a pretty fun exacta right there. Then you think about who's going to be in that 4th position, though.
But if you like Stroud, can't you probably stay put and get him after pick 1 or 2 or something? I don't know.
Well, they're 4th. So if you like Stroud, right, let's say now you have to worry about, it's not about the teams in front of you per se. It's about the teams in front of you plus the teams that could be climbing. Like you think about the Panthers could be an
Could
option. The
leapfrog you,
Raiders,
for sure.
yeah, the Raiders are there. So
For sure. I don't know, Matkafee, any draft takes here?
Man, yeah, like you said, I think Chicago will trade out. I think getting more picks out of that is great. I don't see a trade market for Justin Fields. I think what you have is worth building around here. I think he can grow and develop his passing game.
It's gonna need to.
We were sitting here this time. I watched him play every single game at Ohio State. The dude threw the ball all over the yard. Yes. Now at Ohio State, the guys are always open, and you only have to make 1 or 2 reads, and boom, the ball is out. So, but people said the same thing about Jalen Hurts last year at this time. It's a small running quarterback. He's bigger than Jalen Hurts, and I think there's potential there.
potential in CJ Stroud.
What about Stroud?
Are you saying potential?
Oh, I'm talking about. I'm talking right now still about Justin Fields.
Okay.
So we look at the wide receiver weapons and the tight end weapons. Like, hey, Jalen Hurts. Not only does he get to play with one of the top 2 or 3 offensive lines in the league. The Bears are probably bottom 2 or 3. I'm
not sure about that. I think he runs into a lot of sacks. Look, I'm not an expert on line play, but like when his backups played, they didn't really get sacked. He got sacked all the time. I think some of it was on him, to be fair.
Well, and you got to look, the weapons outside are not winning one-on-one matchups either. So that was going to be my other point. Like, they go out and they get an AJ Brown. They drafted obviously well in getting Goddard and Smith, and so I think guys like that they need some help. Very few Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, like guys that can just play with almost anybody and run around and put up good numbers. Most of these guys need a good offensive line, need good weapons. So I wouldn't, throw the baby out with the bathwater with Fields. I think there's
agree.
a lot of potential there, and I just don't know who is coming in to give you fair trade value for him. So, I try to trade it, and I try to get maybe a starter. And maybe another couple picks, whatever the price is for the number 1 pick. You're not going to get a Ricky Williams kind of package anymore. Those days are gone. But if you can get a plug and play starter and maybe an extra couple picks and just move down in the first round, I think you add more talent around them and try to build, because that team is so young. Like, you're not in win a Super Bowl mode here with Chicago. Like, you've got a high talented player on a rookie contract. You want to try to build with that. So I think the move is trading back out. I think fading Bryce Young is the only way to play it, because I once the combine hits and we get to see his measurables, I think people will be scared off. Now, Brad said, the Texans can't afford to miss on a generational quarterback. If Bryce Young's that guy, great. But if he's not that guy and you drafted a 5'10", 185-pound quarterback, you're cooked. You know what I mean? You probably aren't even getting a second job at that point. Back to a scouting department or something for you. But I think there's value in fading him, taking a shot on Stroud or a Richardson even. Like, I know Richardson's number has come back down to earth. It was
to be
really
the first
crazy.
Pick?
Potentially.
Potentially.
I mean, there's somebody, it just takes one team to fall in love with him.
I would rather bet Richardson.
I think the team that would like
under
him
13,
I can fall in love
over
with him
13 and a half.
And anyone that picks him gets what they deserve. My goodness.
Well, and I think there's other ways to attack it too. Like Brad mentioned, if Chicago stays pat, like what the Browns did in 2017 when Myles Garrett was there.
Yeah.
Watson was on the board, Patrick Mahomes was on the board, stuff like that. We don't even need to talk about Mitch being on the board. But we took the can't miss defensive end who's been an all-pro and has been a great player. But if nobody comes to the table and gives the Bears what they want, then maybe that's a good value. And you attack the quarterback market separate than the number 1 pick market, because you can bet who's the first QB to be taken there, stuff like that. So I think fading Bryce Young in that number 1 spot is a good bet. But yeah, I don't know. Nick, what do you think?
I think Nick's frozen, but I can jump in there.
Jump in there, Red.
So with Bryce Young, it's an interesting situation. I had the privilege of talking to a ton of people at the Fantasy Expo about this because as a guy who scouts these football players, you have to separate yourself from being an Alabama guy, right? So we talk about what's our biggest fear of Bryce Young is his size, his height, right? But if he were 25 pounds heavier, 2 inches taller, he'd be the easy undisputed number one pick. So now it's the question of which team do you think it fits, is willing to take that chance or must take that chance? That's why I think he goes second. Because if you think the Colts jump to expand on my point about C.J. Stroud, the Colts, I don't think the Colts move up to take a Bryce Young. The Colts don't move up to get a guy that could be a total disaster. He could get hurt really early. They go up to get a guy who they think they can build on, guys who can show glimpses of Andrew Luck, things that they've had in the past. While C.J. Stroud throws way too many turnover-worthy balls, he's still a really good quarterback, and it's not taking any knock on Bryce Young. I think if the Texans draft and the Texans are drafting the first quarterback, they're going to take Bryce Young. It's just because you can't pass on the clear-cut number one option when they keep passing on that number one option. They keep passing on the number one option. It's been time and time again, and they keep missing, and they have to take it. It's like one of those things where you're like, man, it looks like we're putting all our eggs in the basket of Bryce Young. It's unfortunate. And then we talk about Bryce Young being small and slight, but Bryce Young played in the SEC for 2 years. Bryce Young stood in the pocket and took hits. Like, it's not like he's not willing to do that. I've been watching Bryce Young since he played at Antioch or whatever high school he did. He was phenomenal. And I was concerned to see how he did in his high school, the All-American game. And he played great. He won MVP. And then I was excited to see what he did against these big behemoths, defensive linemen that come from schools like Georgia. He did great. So now it's just like, I think at some point the Texans are going to be like, listen, we could find knocks on any of these guys. We can't just keep trying to guess.
Yeah, I think Young's really good, but the size would scare me. It's not just the height. He's so narrow. Like, he's got narrow little hips. He is a slight of build guy. But look, I don't know. I've watched enough football. I've seen enough drafts to kind of, I guess, give up on like, oh, this guy's gonna be great in the NFL. This guy's gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
Like, these teams don't know. I usually don't know. I try to make some money betting on it, but I've sort of given up. Like, I do. I have stronger opinions on guys that I'm skeptical of than like, oh, that guy's I can't.
Yes.
Like, I watch. Oh, fuck.
No, he is like 3 years away. Like, people keep saying he's
us,
the next Josh Allen. Sorry, go ahead.
He could be the next Malik Willis too.
Yes.
To be like, it doesn't matter what we think necessarily. Right. It matters what the people making the decisions think, because like
Exactly.
we'll have our impressions of like this guy in college. We watched him. Like, I watched every single snap that Stroud took, and I'm like, this guy seems like he can't miss to me. He didn't even show that he could run until the very end of his career when he absolutely had to. Like, and I think he's a can't miss guy. He's big. He's got the arm. But then, everybody says that the best prospect right now in college football is Caleb Williams next year.
Yeah.
You know what I
May's
mean?
good
and
too.
so
May's really good. They're both
people are saying he's better than anybody in this class.
Both of them.
And
I've heard both of them would go ahead of anybody in this draft, which is
So I mean, if you're the Colts who need a lot of help, like, do you just take the best available? Do you trade out? Do you take the quarterback here? They've been so lucky with bottoming out and then having just the can't miss guy fall to them at number one. Not saying the Colts are up for losing again next year, because they probably aren't.
No, not with another year on Jonathan Taylor's tread.
But they've got a brand new coach coming in. You look at it like, what do we got? This brand new coach, you pair him up with a rookie quarterback this year or next year. I don't know. The Colts roster, you look at it, they need a lot of help. I think they could benefit from trading out too.
I totally agree. But that being said, like, they were the favorites to win the South last year. Their over-under was 9. And I remember I picked them under 9, but still.
But yeah, that was Matt Ryan, who we thought was like, okay, Matt Ryan, you get an upgrade on Carson Wentz, and you got a downgrade on Carson.
Well, I think people thought, oh, hey, they just need a missing quarterback, a missing piece at quarterback, because we like the defensive line. We like the defense, which is probably a little overrated. We like Taylor. They don't have great receivers, but I think people, they made the playoffs with Rivers. Then they should have made it with Wentz. They were 17-point favorites, lost to Jacksonville. Then their over-under was 9. So it's not like this team, it's not like they've been lined at 3 for 3 straight years. This is a team that at least the perception is they got some players. Nick, you got frozen out for a second. Anything to add before we get out of here? Any draft takes?
You guys would hate my draft takes because I would be the guy who trades all my draft picks for proven guys. So I'm a terrible person to ask as far as draft picks. Like every time I see somebody traded, like, I mean, I guess it was the main one was like the Randy Moss trade. I was like, dude, I would give up whatever for Randy Moss
So
when the
you're Mike
Patriots
Ditka.
got
You're
him.
you're trading it all for Ricky Williams. Imagine if
I
that
Yeah,
Let
happened
me
today.
let me ask you something, Nick, because that's a great segue. I saw rumors that the Titans are in sell everybody mode. They're in full rebuild.
Wow.
Would you trade Derrick Henry? I've heard that he might be on the market, and to a contender like say a Buffalo. There was smoke with Buffalo. I think Jeff Darlington brought it up today on ESPN. It's like Buffalo might be in the market to go grab Derrick Henry. Like what?
I'd be like,
big
yeah,
star player?
I'd be like, what do you want? You want my first round pick? Sure, take it.
Does he fetch
Yeah,
a one? You think?
Yeah, I think he fetches a 28th.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
He might-
I think he's
People value
probably
draft
around.
picks so much.
like,
I would just be handing them out
he's
left
an
and
older
right.
back. He's had a million carries. I
Yeah.
get how good he is, but dude.
He's probably a 2 or a 3 because
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
heard
Definitely a 2 or a
I've heard
3.
Nick Chubb's he's probably a second round pick like at this point.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Taylor's not a first round pick either. Like
Right.
running backs, I think people are the market's a
Well,
little
you
lower.
can get Pacheco
I
in
think-
the 7th round. I mean, Pacheco's 22.
Right.
He's free.
I think-
he's as good. He's not 80% as good as any of these guys. 75%, and he's free and he's
Right.
young. And I think that's a nice segue. That was the last thing I was going to ask you guys. To me, the most fascinating player in this draft is going to be the Texas running back Bijan Robinson because he could be like the best running back in the league.
He's going to Tampa.
I totally get the idea. Hey, we don't need to take a running back early. Look at all the guys; they're never first rounders. He might be a guy if you're Buffalo, you trade up. He's a luxury pick more than anything. Does Philly pick him at 10? To me, he's like an Adrian Peterson home run hitter. He's really good.
Yeah, I think Bijan
go
goes
ahead,
to the Bucks is a good spot. Like, not for me. I don't want to draft him, but I'm just like talking from a non-biased perspective.
It's tough
like
if you have no quarterback though, because you're going to waste 2 or 3 years by the time like you get the quarterback straightened out. It's like, all right, he's kind of past.
Yeah,
Yeah, they go
quarterbacks.
back
well,
up in the
but
process.
Yeah.
But what I was saying for the Bucks perspective, why I think that's like a fit there is because who's going to be available to be your quarterback at 19?
Right.
Like
You draft him and you tank. You sit him and then you try to get May next year. Then you play them both 2 years from
Well,
now. I don't know.
Is Trask still on the roster?
Trask is
Ben?
on the roster, and they said that's going to be the guy they're going with if they can't sign a veteran. And who's the only veteran that's like available is like is Carr, and Carr looks like he's going to New York.
I'm so excited for.
Or-
You think he's going to New York?
The Jets? Well,
The Jets.
If Rodgers stays,
Yeah, I think
then
they'll get
they'll go
Rodgers.
Carr.
I don't think they'll get Rodgers. I mean, I don't think they'll
You
get.
don't think the
Carr.
Jets will get Rodgers?
No, I think the Jets will get Rodgers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm
I
very
thought so,
excited.
too.
From what I've read, conversations went well with the Jets and Carr, and that just sounds scary. Like if I'm the Jets, why would you do that? Number one. Number two, you're gonna overpay him.
I can answer that. You want me to answer that?
Yeah,
That's leverage. That's leverage with Green Bay, so we don't. You
Okay.
don't bend me over and ask for 2 first
that makes
round
way
picks.
more sense.
Yeah. Hey, I love Carr. I'm going to
Great.
sign Carr right now. I don't even want you, Rodgers, unless you give me the right deal. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm so excited for Carr to just get signed. I'm so sick of hearing about where Derek Carr's going to go. Who gives a shit? Go to the Saints. Go to the Panthers. Who cares? Like,
Is this the Clippers?
Right.
Is this the
oh my
Clippers I'm
God.
hearing here?
It's a
in
little
Will?
bit of a Clippers. Right? Am I the only one that like nonstop Derek Carr content? Enough. Who cares?
Yeah, he's not gonna win you a Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah, he's to be fair, like this year probably had the best roster, and people weren't staying healthy around him. And not that his play elevated anybody, but like he's had a bad O line most of his career. He's had a worse defense, like a bottom 5 defense most of his career.
Yeah.
And if you throw him on the Jets, he's got a couple good wide receivers, a
But
good
with 9 or
running
10
game.
games, he'll be good. They'll get in the. They could be
Yeah,
in the playoffs.
I mean, I think they could make a run at I don't think a Super Bowl, but they could win a playoff game next year. Like
Not crazy. I mean, it's just on the surface they could, but then you start to add up the quarterbacks he's going against. Like, oh, you're going to face Burrow in the first round.
I mean,
Oh, you're going to
my
face
Browns are
Mahomes.
only going to be better. Like Watson. People are already kind of forgetting about the Browns. They'll be better. I think the Jets kind of. You would think the Dolphins will be better. Obviously, Bills and Chiefs will still be there. Chargers,
Right.
Broncos. You would think Russell Wilson's got to play better with Sean Payton.
Right.
I mean, it is. AFC is tough, and does Rodgers go to the AFC? And if he joins Las Vegas, like
That's not the place to go. He's better off going to the Jets. Like that's a good roster. That's a really good roster. They'd be good with Rodgers. I don't know.
What about the Niners, baby? He goes home.
It doesn't sound like that's going to happen though. That would be the most impactful. That would be a ridiculous. I mean, that they'd be very hard to beat if you get Rodgers. Last one before we go. Where does Lamar play?
Lamar plays. He plays in Baltimore.
I don't think so.
And if his mom won't sign the deal, then he's going. Like, I mean, he may play in Baltimore next season. But
sounds like it's broken. I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I don't have any information, but it sounds like that's just a fractured relationship. I don't know.
I
think money talks.
Dolphins send Tua and whatever you possibly can.
That's
to get Lamar down there because that's where he's from.
There
he wants
when he
to
wants
go there,
and he'll have receivers to throw to. They'd be very good.
That would be a fun team to watch.
What team did you say?
The Dolphins.
Oh my God!
Yes,
could you imagine? Oh my God, that would not be fair.
Right.
Playing at home.
That'd be really good. That'd be really. He wouldn't have to run as much because he got the receiver, so he wouldn't get hurt as much. That's. I mean, that's really. You can't make them the favorite in the AFC, but man, that's a perfect.
It would be fun. Buffalo would be sweating. Yes. Buffalo would pull the trigger on Derrick Henry.
Imagine if Miami gets Lamar and the Jets get Rodgers.
First and second.
That's the scariest division.
Yes, and like the Patriots aren't terrible. I mean, the Patriots might as well they won't do this, but they might as well tank for May or Caleb Williams because if that's your division, my goodness.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are going to make a tanking draft pick at 14. I think the Patriots make one of those picks where everyone's like, "Oh,
coach is 73 years old though." I don't know that tank is in Belichick's vocabulary. Not saying that's the right thing, but I don't know.
No, I don't think he's going to definitely try to tank. Yeah. I just think he's more comfortable taking a project guy who could be that guy in 3 years at 14 instead of, get this flashy name.
Right.
He could trade down. Patriots are accustomed to trade down sometimes. So,
well, guys, I got good news. We got an hour out of the show. I wasn't sure how we were going to do it. We had no games, but this is actually a fun show. I thought we covered a lot of good stuff. So, Nick, Matt, Brad, appreciate you guys. Boom Fantasy, Pickett Sports, check them out. Thanks to Go Boys. We'll be back Thursday. Guys, good luck with all your bets. We'll see you then.